Hello, I'm Jonathan Riddle. This is my house, Esk Tower in Midlothian, and I'm making another video adding more retrofit insulation on the inside of all the stone walls in order to keep the rooms nice and warm. In the last video I showed attaching 4 centimeters of Gutex wood fibre insulation onto the stone walls. That's great for where you've got flat surface, but I uncovered the fireplaces here and they're not entirely flat. So this is too rigid for it. So in this case, I'm going to use aerogel fibre, 1 centimetre thick, to insulate it where the stones are a bit more bumpy. Some of the tools and materials that I'll be using for this task, the main one is the big roll of aerogel insulation. That's Spacetherm A-rated, and it comes from a Scottish company in Blairgowrie. To affix that onto the walls, I'm going to be using aerogel adhesive from lime green. On the very top I'm going to be using mineral paint from Aerogel, so that's all breathable. I'm going to be using lime green solo as the overcoat, which is a plaster from lime green, and as an undercoat I'm going to be using lime green Duro, where the walls are not very straight, and lime green Ultra, where I need insulation without the material behind the live fireplace, so it doesn't add additional fire risk. Then I've got some edging. This is from Passive House store. This stuff is just from B&Q. Most of this you can't buy from B&Q, some of it you can. And then decent cutting tools, wire mesh to make a second layer of lime green solo, and my own personal protective equipment, SDS drill and paddle mixer to easily mix the materials, and some plastering tools. This room is the upper office room of the house, and when I took the walls down, insulated them, external walls, discovered this fireplace, did up the fire surround, but there's still a cold spot there. So I'm going to insulate that with Spacetherm aerogel blanket, using this lime green silicate aerogel adhesive. Wish me luck. On my leg. And I'm pretty pleased with this Spacetherm A-rated aerogel. I think it's the right material for the job. It's thin, it's flexible, it's easy to cut, pleasingly easy to work with, but it's not as flexible as I would like. The Warm Shell Silica Aerogel Adhesive, that's working pretty well. As far as I can tell, you just paste it on, glue on the aerogel fabric, but inside here it's not as level as I would like, and so I've had to make lots of cuts in the aerogel in order to get it to actually be in contact with the wall behind everywhere. And if you don't do that, you get air pockets. When you get air pockets, they're cold, and then you get condensation, because moist air will move through and condense to get down. So you can have air pockets. It's working well, but it means I've had to spend today chopping up tiny little slices and triangles to fit in the gaps there, which is pretty slow, error prone and slightly painful work. So you can see now that's looking pretty tight, but there's a lot of cuts we've had to make in it. Well, the adhesive is on, but the plaster is not sticking, so I'm going to try water it down, make a different consistency, see if that helps.
Okay, this is not working. I've put the adhesive on, put the plaster on, but the plaster is just crumbling off the wall, so something's going wrong. I need to go back and read the instructions, talk to people, see if I can work out what's going on.
Okay, I did my experimental pieces, and they all seem to have come quite good. So this is the aerogel with water and without, and this is the glass fiber mesh with water and without. And they all seem reasonably decent texture, which could stand alone or could do with maybe a second layer on it. So the experimental stuff seems quite good. Transferring that to where I actually want the installation to be, I've painted over here with the aerogel adhesive. It's looking kind of messy. I'm going to see if I can smooth that out with a wire brush maybe. Over here where I originally did the plaster that didn't work, the aerogel blanket slightly delaminated, and so the adhesive didn't actually stick onto it very well, so then I put some mesh, glass fiber mesh on it instead. So far it's looking messy. In principle it should work, but I'm not fully convinced that it's all going to work. We'll see what happens.
Scrub it off a little bit with a metal brush, not too much because it just meant the adhesive came off.
This is Ultimate Com on BBC Radio.
So I've done the plastering of the fireplace, and it's looking pretty solid and complete. But if you press too hard on it, it indents a little bit. That's fine because it's not a functional area. I'm not going to be pressing my hand against it very often. But I think if you were doing it on a more active part of the house, then you would want to do a second layer with some sort of reinforcing. So today's job is to brush this down, tidy it up, paint it, and then on the bottom lip here I'll put a bit of L cross-section wood to finish that off, and then remove all the little scraps of paint. So now I need to paint it. I've got teal blue and then ochre green, and I'm trying to mix it up to match this colour from within the tiles. The paints I'm using are called Auru, and that's a mineral paint, and you have to use a mineral paint so that it's moisture permeable. Again, quite relatively specialist, need to buy it online, can't buy it from B&Q. And they've got a range of colours, and we'll see how this one fits. So first fireplace done. I'm very pleased with how it's turned out. I think the aerogel blanket. That's a good choice. As with all materials, you've got to learn how it works. It's not very well documented. Hopefully I've helped to document it a bit now. The aerogel adhesive seems like a good way to stick it on while minimizing the gaps behind the aerogel. The aerogel manufacturers recommend using mechanical bolts, so masonry screws, which I had not bought before, so you need to work out what the right ones are and buy a new socket set, work out how to connect the socket set to your screwdriver and so forth. So another just a little bit of self-learning that I had to do there. But that potentially would create thermal bridges, which they say is negligible. And so you have to balance there the costs and the availability. The aerogel adhesive is not cheap, that's expensive. Looking on the thermal camera, it looks just the same as it did before. So it's obviously not as insulated as using the 4 centimeters of wood fiber that I've used on the walls. But to some extent, it shows the limitations and difficulties of using the thermal camera because it self-calibrates what is the hottest color and what's the coldest color. So yes, that's still the coldest thing in the room. But putting my hand in there now feels perfectly warm. It doesn't feel any different from putting my hand in the center of the room. So I'm confident it's notably warmer than it was before. The aerogel is messy to work with. It will get under your skin. Got to use single-use overalls. It's easy to cut, but it's not as flexible as I would have liked, which is fine. You just have to make sure you get a decent amount of leveling beforehand. So, Spacetherm aerogel blanket, a success.